What is going on, everybody? So, I've been through the painstaking process to dissect my social media activity for the last 12 years. Yes, I've sat down and gone through the process of looking at the major accounts that I use are Facebook and Instagram and looked at my activity for 12 years. And it's pretty interesting to see, to kind of look at this stuff. And what I've done is I just went month by month, number of posts, and then kind of looked at some of those posts to figure out where I was at, what was going on in my life at that time. And some interesting information that I've been able to at least look at and start to dissect is how, you hear about the Facebook effect or the social media effect for that matter, where people only pay, they'll send pictures of them living their best life or all the great things that are happening with them. And it's a front, it's a lie, it's a front of like the way we want people to see our lives versus the way we're actually living our lives and the things that we're doing. So I was able to go back, and as I started to look at this, I found that there was a period of time where I was living that. And then there's like radio silence, and radio silence for almost a freaking decade. Honestly, it's probably a decade. And I can show you numbers on it. And I look back at that decade, and that's why I started entering the different things that were happening in my life and where I was. And those were the times in those areas, in those periods, is when I was living the biggest lie. It's when I started having an affair. It's when I found out about my wife's affair, that we didn't deal with it properly, that, I wasn't handling things. I wasn't happy with my body. And instead of like trying to show everybody that I was living this best life, and living that lie, I started to live a lie of omission, where just because you don't say something doesn't mean that you're not lying. And again, that was a lie of omission because I wasn't living my truth. I wasn't living the truth about how I was feeling about myself. I wasn't living the truth about where I was at in my marriage. I wasn't living the truth about what I wanted, and where I was going. And that, oddly enough, showed up on social media with the reverse effect that some people might think, because I totally pulled away and I didn't share, and I just kind of lived a hermit life. And it wasn't until October 27th of 2018 that really changed for me. And that's when I was put in a situation where I had to stop living the lie, where I literally exposed myself for all of my faults, all of my flaws, all of the labels and baggage that I carried around for so long, that I'm a liar, I'm a cheater, I'm a thief, I'm worthless, I'm fat, I'm incompetent, all those bullshit lies and those labels that we tell ourselves, that for a long time, that was the truth that I held on to. And interestingly enough, after that experience, after I finally exposed what I was carrying and what my truth was, it was at that point then I started to come back to social media. So, because I was living in the light, I was living in the truth, I was pulling away from those lies. Now, that doesn't mean I'm free from those lies. It doesn't mean that they don't creep up, that I don't still have to manage and deal with that on a daily basis. The difference is now I just have a skill set for how to better manage those things. But it's been really interesting to see how all of those things kind of played out in my life, and how they are, and how living a lie has impacted me. And when living in truth, that's when I'm out there. I'm vulnerable. I'm confident. And who would have thought that through vulnerability, of owning your truth, of owning your flaws, of owning all of the crap that you're afraid to admit, listen to, deal with, hear, share. Most important, don't forget, share the sharing with others. Because again, by not saying anything is not, that's not the truth. That's living the lie of omission. By finally stepping into the truth and into my truth, that's when I started to come out, and that's when I started to share my light with the world. So think about that in your life. Think about the lies that you're living, the impact that's having, how that might. The monitor just jumped, so I'm staring at myself as I'm doing this. So the monitor just froze. So hopefully, at least we got the audio. But think about that for your own life, because I've seen it firsthand in mine. I've got data that shows it, and I'm more of a data person than I am a feeling person. But uh, you know, just want to put that share out there and, um, yeah, living your truth and not being afraid to show that for the world to